Hello NYWCites, and welcome to another DVD review. As this time around, I will be reviewing one of my favorite show titles, Borrowed Time. This event took place back on March 31st of 2007, and it was for a time a yearly show. Shane, you should bring back this show title, man. Now, this show is memorable for me for two particular reasons, which I'll get into reason number one right now. All right. Now, that weekend of the show, I guess there was a construction work being done on the Long Island Railroad tracks, because I had gotten on a train, and they said there were no trains going past Bethpage, so I had to get off in Hicksville, got on a bus that was going to Deer Park train station, and then I had to take a cab to the show. If that wasn't bad enough, for some reason, they didn't start letting the crowd in until about 6:45 p.m. There was a guy in front of me saying, "Oh, this ain't worth it." One lady behind me with her kids, the kids were getting impatient, and their mother and the lady was saying to them, "You know, if they don't open up in 5 minutes, we'll leave." And if that wasn't bad enough, the crowd was so impatient that one member of Atlas Security nearly got trampled at the door as everybody's trying to get in. But we'll get to the second reason later on in this. But here's how this show had gone down. We began with a singles match as Benny Martinez went one-on-one with the Grim One, Kevin Reef, known commonly to indie wrestling fans as the Grim Reefer. Early in the match, they went outside the ring, and Reefer chopped Benny in the chest to the point where he fell through the curtain where the wrestlers were coming out, and Reefer went through the curtain to get him, and Reefer suplexed Benny out the curtain, basically, like he back out to where everybody was. Reefer hits a wicked lariato on Benny. One point, Reefer gave Benny a suplex, and they were near the ropes, where it was kind of like a suplex into a neck breaker, and dropped Benny's neck on the top rope, like a reverse clothesline type thing. Reefer hit his patented second rope, Russian leg sweep, which I know the Russian leg sweep was a finisher by the late Brad Armstrong when he wrestled in WCW. But usually when one of Reefer's opponents jumps up to the second rope, Reefer would jump the second rope and give him that Russian leg sweep, or as I call it, the grapevine neck breaker. Benny eventually hits a Hurricane Rana. One point in the match, Reefer's do-rag came off. Reefer put it on Benny's head. Benny ended up putting Reefer in a crossface, because Reefer's known for the he had this head scissor crossface move he was known for. The end came when Benny was climbing the top rope. Reefer tripped him up, and Benny was hung up on the turnbuckles. Reefer gave him a pile driver and then hit a frog splash to pick up the win. Obviously, Grim Reefer always manages to put on a good matchup, and the potential in Benny had yet to be tapped. No offense to Benny Martinez. He got better as time went on. This night, we were scheduled to have a street fight pitting the Dead Presidents, Low Lincoln and Boog Washington, against the Outcast Killers, Oman Tortuga and Diablo Santiago. But unfortunately, I think Low Lincoln, was injured. So they wound up doing a singles match for the Tag Team Championship, as Boog Washington went one-on-one with Diablo Santiago. They had a slugfest, and they ended up out on the floor. Boogaloo grabbed a hold of Santiago and brought him over to the guardrail, had a bunch of little kids punching Santiago in the head. Back in the ring, Diablo hits a great pop-up power slam on Boog Washington, or Boogaloo, as I know him as. Diablo hits a great lariato, and then he went to the top rope, missed a top rope headbutt. The end came when Diablo went for a scoop slam, but Boogaloo grabbed a hold of, on the way down, grabbed Diablo's leg and scored the pinfall to retain the tag belts for the Dead Presidents. Just think the same way Ricky Steamboat defeated Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3. That's how Boog Washington won the match. Boog took the microphone and demanded to shake his hand, and they shook hands, but then out comes Dan Dynasty and Jamie Van Leemer, and Dynasty doing his best Rick Rude / Val Venus hip swivel, and they challenged wanted the tag team championship right then and there, so it wound up being Boogaloo and Diablo go from being faces for wrestling each other to teaming up in this match against Dynasty and Van Leemer. Eventually, the early going, Boogaloo puts Van Leemer in the tree of woe, and he's got him by the hair, and he's like hitting stiff kicks to his back. On the floor, Diablo used the chair on Dan Dynasty and Leemer. Leemer eventually reversed Irish whipped Diablo into the guardrail. The end came when both Dynasty and Van Leemer both hit Boogaloo with a super kick each, and they both pinned Boogaloo to win the NYWC Tag Team Championship. Next was a singles matchup, which saw Joe Etel, long before he was indestructible, go one-on-one with Bruno Marciano. Bruno caught Etel coming off the top rope with a fireman carry into a gutbuster, which I know Roderick Strong had been known for. Bruno hits a great belly-to-back suplex, which is a basic move I see at nearly every independent show I go to. Somebody hits that move. Etel hit an enziguri. Eventually, the end came when Bruno Marciano put the Kimura lock, or I think it's called a Kimura lock, and Etel tapped out, and Marciano picked up the win. Next up, we had Stockade. He went one-on-one with Mikey Whipwreck, accompanied the ring by Preacher John Cannon and the late Crusher Dugan. This was a hectic matchup, and unless I'm wrong, this was the first time Mikey and Stockade faced each other one-on-one. Mikey, early in the match, he pulled a trick out of the Terry Funk playbook as he took a plastic bag and put it over Stockade's head, much like Funk did to Ric Flair back in 1989. Eventually, Stockade's like down on the mat and his head sticking out on the apron, and a bunch of chairs were put in place, and there was one chair against each side of Stockade's head, and Whipwreck and Preacher John Cannon each had a chair. They did a double concerto on Stockade. Eventually, they actually went into the crowd, and I think Whipwreck hit Stockade, and they actually went out the side door and ended up outside on Homer Avenue. For those who don't know, the Deer Park Community Center, located at 41 Homer Avenue in Deer Park, New York, was where NYWC ran shows at this time. They eventually came back in through that same side door. They went over to the pickup window, and Whipwreck rammed Stockade into the counter of the pickup window where they sell food and drinks. Whipwreck used one of the serving trays, hit Stockade head with it, brought a trash can into play, and it looked like, I don't know if it was in the trash can or not. It looked like I don't know if it was a hero sandwich or just plain hero bread. I think he tried to use that on Stockade as well. Whipwreck picked up a big chain. He clotheslined Stockade with it. Ken Scampi and Foxy come out, and not sure where they were going with this, but Whipwreck ends up hitting Scampi with a chair. Back in the ring, Stockade slammed Mikey Whipwreck on a stop sign that was set up on two chairs. Stockade used a drop toe hold a la Raven, but instead of a chair, it was into a shopping cart, which was brought into play. I think Stockade kicked Whipwreck in the chest, and Whipwreck bumped into Ref Forge, and they're both down. Stockade went to the top rope. Whipwreck moved, and Stockade accidentally splashed Forge. Stockade went for a spear, but he wound up inside the shopping cart. Then Whipwreck put Stockade through a table that was bridged between the ring apron and the guardrail. And then Whipwreck nailed the whipper-snapper. And Forge got up and made the 3 count, enabling Mikey Whipwreck to pick up the win. Now, next part was not seen on the DVD, but I understand after the victory, Whipwreck notices Foxy, who's still at ringside long after Ken Scampy took a chair shot from Mikey. Mikey picked up the chain that he used on Stockade. He wrapped it around Foxy's neck and didn't drag her, but she walked with him. So, because that was kind of the beginning of when Whipwreck had put together a group called the Black Circle. Next matchup, we saw a women's match, as we saw Amber, I believe she was from the Boston area. She went one-on-one with Tracy Brooks, who at the time was part of TNA/Impact Wrestling. At one point, early in the bout, Tracy had Amber on all fours, and she gave her a little spanking. They went out to the floor, and Tracy Brooks tells someone to put their foot up, and and it was one of Robert Franklin's sons. I don't know how old his sons were at the time, and he was happy to oblige Tracy's request. Back in the ring, Amber eventually took control. She hit a neck breaker. She then hit the X Factor, which was a X-Pac's finisher. Split-legged face slam. Tracy eventually recovered by hitting an Ace Crusher, and then she hit a Lariato and pinned Amber to pick up the victory. At that point in time, they had gone to intermission, and I'll get to that later on. But when the action resumed, we had tag team action, as we saw representing the Foreign Legion, Ahmad Ali and Ahmad Jihad Akbar. Try saying those names 3 times fast. They were covered to the ring by Prince Charles and Francois Lin. Charles took the microphone, and the crowd, especially the children who were there at the time. I wonder how old those children could be right now. Could be adults by now, because 2007 was 14 years ago. Darn, I'm getting old. And eventually out comes their opponents, as Bruce Springsteen's Born the USA plays, but it wasn't Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham. It was JT Tackleberry with an American flag and a 2x4, holding like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and his partner Oscar, who was handing out small American flags to the crowd. The match was on. Oscar early on hit Ahmad. For those who don't know, Ahmad Jihad Akbar is Hot Stuff Eddie Guapo. Oscar hit Ahmad with a Hurricane Rana, and Oscar eventually took punishment from Ahmad and Ahmad. And Ahmad hit a Brainbuster on Oscar. Ahmad took a carpet, and he was going to jump off the top rope, but he missed. But he missed on Oscar. Oscar eventually tags Tackleberry. For those who don't know, that's Kaysen. Tackleberry, he gave Ahmad a suplex into a gut buster. The finish came when Ahmad hit Tackleberry with some kind of a book. I don't think it was a Bible. I'm not sure what it was. He hit him with a book over the head and pinned him, enabling Ahmad Jihad Akbar and Ahmad Ali to defeat JT Tackleberry and Oscar. After the match, Francois Lin came in the ring and draped the French flag over Tackleberry. Next up was a singles matchup, as Josh Daniels went one-on-one with Maverick. Maverick, who, for those who don't know, is Tony Nese, who recently got released from the WWE. Good match by these two guys. They would start out slow. Mav hit a Hurricane Rana on Josh. He also hit a nice spin kick on him. They went out to the floor, and Maverick... he did a nice moonsault off the top of the guardrail onto Josh. Back in the ring, Josh hit a great German suplex and hit a Lariato, which made Nese do a 360 job. Maverick hit a sunset flip powerbomb off the top rope. Josh ended up picking up the win by pinning Maverick with a dragon suplex, a la a move that Chris Benoit was known for. Okay, our next was a singles action, as it was a match for the Hi-Fi Championship, where the match could only end by pinfall or submission, as Plasma, who we know today as Trent, one member of the Best Friends and All Elite Wrestling, as he went one-on-one, he challenged Dan Barry for the Hi-Fi Championship. Now, I do not have Aftermath 2007, which took place a month before this show, but what happened was Barry had won the belt from Plasma, and after the match, he took the championship belt like a whip and hit Plasma in the back after the match, which signified that Barry had become a heel. This was a return bout but could only be won by pinfall or submission. Plasma, surprisingly, attacks Barry from behind before the bell even rings. Barry knocks Plasma off the apron, and Plasma hits the guardrail, and a little kid had gotten hurt. I don't know if Plasma's back or the guardrail hit this poor child in the head. I mean, I was actually sitting near in that side of the room, and even when I was there, and the kid's like holding his head, he's crying, and then he screamed something, and other children sitting near him, they stood up, and they figured, we don't want to sit here until it's safe to come back. And I think one of the guards of Atlas Security even checked on the situation. I take it the child was more shaken up than hurt, if you ask me. All right. Barry eventually brought a chair into the ring. Plasma went to do a suplex, but they were too close to the rope, so they both took a tumble out to the floor. Plasma hit a lariato. Then he gave him a German suplex. Barry a German suplex. Plasma hit a top rope Hurricane Rana. Barry eventually hits a wicked DDT. I think it was at one point Plasma hit a low kick, and it was probably one of those back where his leg would go backwards into his groin. Then wow. And then the end came when Plasma tried for the Dude Buster, but Alex Reynolds comes out and hits Plasma in the head, and then the momentum caused Barry to sunset, like pin Plasma with a sunset to retain the championship. And after the bell, both Barry and Reynolds are stomping away at Plasma until Maverick hit the ring and saved him. And then it was main event time. It was a huge 8-man tag team match, as we had on one side then NYWC champion Dickie Rodz, Mega, before he was king, accompanied the ring by Prince Charles, Francois Lynn, Ahmad Ali, and Ahmad Jihad Akbar. Oh, damn, that's a tongue twister. And their partners were Dan Dynasty and Jimmy Van Leemer, who won the tag team titles earlier in the show. And their opponents were then Interstate champion Jerry Lynn, Papa Don, and the BS Express, Mike Spinelli and Tony Burma. Early in the match, Akbar tripped Jerry Lynn, and the Ref Andre caught him doing that, and as a result, Andre ejected Akbar, Ahmad Ali, and Francois Lynn from ringside. Tony Burma eventually got tagged in. He was triple teamed in the corner by Dickie, Dynasty, and Van Leemer, or should I say quadruple team with the account Mega. Leemer had a nice top rope elbow drop onto Burma. Burma took punishment, and eventually Mike Spinelli got tagged in. He hits Rodz with a sky high, which is one of D'Lo Brown's moves. Jerry and Papa Don hit dives to the floor on Dynasty and Van Leemer. Burma hits Rodz with a Yakuza kick. Spinelli accidentally hit a running knee strike, but he accidentally hit Burma when he was aiming for Rodz. Mega was going to give Spinelli the choke slam, but as he picked him up, Spinelli knocked Ref Andre down. Mikey Whipwreck comes out. He spits mist in Mega's face, but then Ahmad Ali, Jihad Akbar, and Francois Lynn come back out after being ejected from ringside. Ahmad grabs Whipwreck from behind. Whipwreck spits mist in Akbar's face, and then he throws Ahmad into Akbar. Mega grabs unbeknownst, seemingly, grabs Akbar and Akbar and double chokeslams them. Francois Lin gets in Whipwreck's face, and I forgot what Whipwreck did to him, but Mega wound up chokeslamming Francois Lin. Then Whipwreck gives Mega a whippersnapper. Jerry and Papa Don double dropkick Mega. He goes down and out to the floor. Spinelli then hits Rods with a Falcon Arrow, and Ref Andre gets up and makes the 3 count, enabling Jerry Lynn, Papa Don, the BS Express to defeat Dickie Rods, Mega, Dan Dicey, and Jamie Van Leemer to win this match. Whew. Yeah, that seemed like a lot. Ugh, especially in that final match. But now, the second part of why this show is memorable, other than the show itself. During an intermission, after Tracy Brooks won her match, the fans were given the opportunity to come into the ring and get a picture with Tracy. Thankfully, it was only $10, because if I want to get a picture with a wrestler, I'm not paying more than $10. Well, it turns out this very night, I myself got to go in the ring and get a picture with Tracy. And turns out that same night, I had not, at that time, I had yet to meet her. My favorite NYWC, Jessica, was at the show, and she too got a picture with Tracy. And so I don't know. That's kind of like I wouldn't say like that was kind of a surreal, considering that she and I didn't sit together, didn't meet until a few years later, and we first sat together for a show. Okay, but Borrowed Time, 2007, the very first Borrowed Time, by the way, was a great event. I think Shane, I think he should bring that show title back, even if it's just for a fundraiser show when NYWC gets up and running again. Because I don't know, unless Yoko Ono, John Lennon's widow, plans on suing, because for those who don't know, Borrowed Time was a song recorded by John Lennon before his untimely demise, no pun intended, and the song wasn't released until a few years after he died. Great song, by the way, but definitely Borrowed Time 2007, a great show, and I hope you all enjoyed this one, folks.